How are we going, everybody? Now, today I thought I would address Peter's comment. Pete put a comment up and asking about whether you can, like, dunking cigars and reintroducing moisture. Now, with old cigars that are sitting to one side, you can reintroduce moisture. Now, it takes a while, so if you've got old cigars and someone's given you a humidor or you've decided you want to smoke them soon, you can put a Bavoda pack in there and just let it sit there for a while, a few weeks, to let the moisture soak back in again before you smoke them. But when it comes to introducing flavour, right, now there are a few things. Now, we've all seen, or maybe you haven't seen it, but I've seen it, and a lot of people have commented on YouTube, and that is Arnold Schwarzenegger putting tequila or something like a spirit on there with a piece of cedar wood, brushing it on and then smoking it, right? And you have a few comments, and you see older people, and you see them doing it in movies, and there's been a long tradition of dunking the butt of your cigar in like port or cognac or whiskey, things like that. And then it got me thinking about the history behind that. Now, the history behind dunking cigars actually goes back a long way, because back in the day, they never had humidors. So the reason they dunked their cigar in cognac and things like that was to introduce flavour, and because cigars were generally very dry, because they didn't have humidors, they basically just stacked them up, put them in cedar boxes or something like that, and then just let them sit there. And they really didn't know how to keep the moisture in very well, so keeping a cigar to the right humidity was very, very difficult, right? But these days, there is no need to dunk the cigar at all, right? And if anything, you can destroy the cigar by doing that, because there is a lot of moisture in the cigar anyway. What you can do is you can plug up the end, which makes drawing the cigar very difficult. But if you want to introduce flavour to a cigar, the correct way to do it, right? And I thought about this for a while, and I understand why it's the correct way, because as we know, your taste buds don't really taste flavour. Your nose tastes flavour. So your tongue will taste sweet and sour and things like that. But what gives your food flavour, what gives anything that you consume flavour, is your sense of smell, right? Which is why people like dipping on and adding flavour to cigars. So what I thought I would try today, which is why I've got two cigars, and I'm using my cheap ones for this, because I wouldn't want to do it to one of my, my father's or Perdomo ones. They don't need it. But these cigars are cheap. Now, we want to add flavour. Now, I have got with me today, I've got a bourbon, which I've pulled out of the cupboard downstairs. This is a bullet bourbon, and if the one thing they do properly in America, they make good bourbon. So I've got that one, and I thought I would use the Australian rum that I have. Now, we can't buy this in Sweden. Although I have asked a little bit at the Systembolaget, I still can't get that one at the Systembolaget. And that is, if anyone wants to know, Sunshine and Sons. And for the people that don't know me, that is a distillery in Queensland, and they haven't been going very long, but their rum is very, very good. So if you see that, it's well worth the buy. All right. And interestingly enough, that's a spiced rum. So, and they do use, when they make cigars, and they infuse it with spice, and like the Perdomo's family, they actually use bourbon barrels to ferment their tobacco. So, yeah, so you can do it. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take one of these, I'm going to take these cigars. One I'm going to infuse with the rum, and the other one I'm going to infuse with the bourbon. And I'll try them both. Now, I'm not going to smoke all of them both right now, but we'll run another experiment with the other one, and we'll get back to you about that one tomorrow. But so what you do, right? If you've got, because as people are aware that a lot of humidors are made out of cedar, so if you've got, you can buy these sticks, so you can brush, or you can even light your cigars with them. And I don't have anything like that at home. So what I thought I'd do, I've got my mat out here, and I've got some kitchen paper to keep the cigar nice and clean. So what we'll start with is we'll start with the bourbon. So I'm just going to use my finger and brush it on the outside of the cigar, like so, and put a nice coating there. Roll it on the kitchen paper a little bit, and it'll take the excess off there. And if you can see, you can't probably see that very well on camera, but you can see it's darkened the shade a little bit, and you can really smell the bourbon. All right. So don't dunk. So you have your, and I very rarely drink bourbon straight. Normally I've got Coke in it. So now we're going to light this one up, and we're going to try this and see if that flavour from the bourbon comes through the cigar. Now this is something you can do, like if you're at a party or you're having a thing and you've got a few people around for a dinner party, this is a fun thing just to try. And you can have a few different spirits and you can try which one you prefer. I think, personally, that I'm probably going to like that spiced rum the best. So, might light that up a little bit more. Now I'm not sure if I can actually taste it or if it's just because I can smell it, I can taste it. That's the thing, I don't know. But it is a fun thing to try. So, and I like these factory smokes. They're cheap, they're good cigars. And so the thing is, you can actually add a little bit more on as you go, you know, as a little bit of extra, if you're after a little bit of extra flavour or something like that. And as you can see, it soaks in. Now, you can be more fancy about it. Like I said to you, Arnold Schwarzenegger will sit there and he's got these really nice cloth, you know, that he has, and he's got these wooden sticks, you know, the cedar sticks, and he dips it in the tequila and he rubs it on and he coats it all over, and then he smokes it. Now, I think it does taste a bit different. I think the one, but you can smell it as well. So maybe the reason it improves the flavour is because if you pick especially a spirit with a very strong odour, which is why I think the rum is going to have more an effect, because the sense of smell is so much more. So, yeah, I like the cigars, and I think it's a fun thing to try. But what I'll do now is I'll swap over. I'm going to light this one, and we'll try out the rum. Yeah. So for all you people who keep dunking, do not dunk. It doesn't do. And the only thing it does do is when you go like this, you can taste the rum on your tongue. So you get the flavour that way, but it actually blocks the cigar up, and it's not recommended. But smothering it on the outside, allowing it to soak into the tobacco and then smoking it is another way. You can actually buy infusers, and they're little glass tubes, and you've got a little bulb at the bottom, and you pour in whatever spirit you want into the little bowl, and it's got a cork on the top, and you let it sit there for a few weeks, and the smell and the odor from the spirit, whether it be cognac or rum or whatever it is, will soak in to, and because you're using a liquid like rum, it will infuse in. So you can reintroduce flavour into old cigars by doing this. Some of the cigar manufacturers don't recommend it, but, you know, if you've got an old cigar there and you're trying to inject a bit of extra flavour, give it a go. Give it a go. So now with the rum. So let's give it a nice coating here. Now that's a really strong odour, that one. Let's have a... I like that rum. That's a good one. So for anyone who's not, you know, doesn't know that, Sunshine and Sons, you know, check it out. So yeah, let's go with this one. So yeah, so the dunking into the port or the sherry or the cognac and the whiskey, originally that was only done to add moisture, because if you go back 100 or 200 years, or even further than that, before the invention of humidors, proper humidors like we have today, keeping your cigars moist or properly humidified was very difficult, very difficult. And cigars, they had problems with temperature and all sorts of things. So, and they ended up by throwing a lot away because they just simply went mouldy or they got too dry. Yeah. Of course, I think it has altered the flavour slightly. Yeah. Get a bit of that. Doesn't always. There we go. It's all evenly burnt. Yeah, I think out of these two cigars, like, I prefer the rum. I probably should have put the rum on that one because I like that cigar better. But this, it's a cheap cigar. I don't mind giving this a go just in case it doesn't work. And if it doesn't, if I didn't like it, it hasn't cost me too much to, you know, toss it away. Yeah. So still, we could add a tiny bit more. The other thing that's worth trying is making sure you pair your drinks up properly. You know, so by all means, experiment a little bit, you know, because it's always a good idea to make sure that, for example, I like the bourbon, so take a sip of the bourbon first and keep it in your mouth. So it's wet in my mouth, there's still a little bit of it left in my mouth, and then draw it. Because you're coating your mouth with the whiskey or the bourbon in this case, when you take the draw from the cigar, you will end up by getting flavour from the bourbon that will also come into your mouth, and it'll all mix together before you blow it out. So doing this sort of stuff can, and then if you alter your drinks a little bit, like I've actually found that stout is actually quite good with a cigar, which surprised me, you know. And what I ended up by doing, because I got a cigar that needed a little bit of sweetness to it. So instead of that, I got the, like on one of them, I tried a bourbon and Coke, and the sweetness from the Coca-Cola mixed with the bourbon while I was smoking the cigar balanced all the flavours out nicely. See, the thing is too, like I found having a portergaff, which is the stout with some lemonade in it, and the sweetness and the flavour from the portergaff, you know, and the particular cigar I was smoking with the sweetness of the lemonade mixed together quite nicely to smoke, you know. And if you're thinking about the Perdomo, some of the cigar manufacturers do actually specify certain, like the Perdomos, they recommend bourbon or whiskey with their cigars. And I think they're right. Those sort of drinks do match very well with the cigars. Yeah. No. Let's just fix up the... I was smoking the other one and this one's gone out. See, and this leads in to the experiment which I'm going to start today and I'll finish it tomorrow on a different video. And that is another thing that I've, from Arnold Schwarzenegger, of one of his stories. And that is, Arnold Schwarzenegger has been known to do this, and that is to put a cigar in the ashtray, and he's busy or whatever, but he'll come back to it hours later or even the following day and then pick it up and light it. And he reckons it doesn't change the flavour. So I got 2 cigars here. So one of them, I'm going to only partially smoke it. I'm going to leave it here and then I'll pick it up tomorrow and I'll see if it's destroyed the cigar, or we'll run a little experiment with that one. So we'll see how that turns out, and we'll try what Arnold Schwarzenegger says that he can, he picks an old cigar up out of the ashtray, because you should never butt your cigars out like this. A cigar deserves to die with dignity. So you just lay it down, leave it there, and just let it go. And so he does that quite a bit, apparently. Like, he has been, a couple of people have reported on it, and he's even said it himself, that he'll put a cigar down and then he'll be there with someone who's an aficionado of cigars, and they'll see a half-smoked cigar in his ashtray, and only will just pick it up, light it, and smoke it. And he'll go, yep. And they'll go, no, you can't do that. And he'll go, yes, you can. So we'll try it. I'll leave one of the cigars in the ashtray after only partially smoking it, and then I'll pick it up and we'll do what's called purging the cigar, and then we'll light it up and smoke it. And we'll find out how that one goes. But when it comes to doing this, I think it's a little bit of fun to do. So by all means, if you want. I don't think it changes the flavour that much. So, but I think if I was to constantly dip my finger and keep it a little bit moist with the flavour, then it would get more and more. But you don't want too much. That's why dunking is bad, because it would swell up the cigar way too much. All you're trying to do is add just a tiny bit of flavour. That's it. And like I said, the other option you have is to buy an infuser. I don't think I'll bother getting one of those, because I like the cigars just the way they are. But that will do it. But if you've got old cigars at home and you want to rehydrate them, you can. Put them in the humidor, put in your Voda packs, and let them sit there for a few weeks so they can rehydrate. And they might be a little bit flavourless, but they'll still be okay to smoke. So there you go. That's the video today. So if you want to add the extra flavour, that's how you introduce a little bit of extra flavour to your cigars. So a little bit of fun to try. I don't think I'll be wasting too much, because I actually think that if you're going to have introduced different flavours, well then they're supposed to be done like this, not like this. And wiping it on the outside is a bit of fun. It adds a little bit extra, and I think it's fun to try. But yeah. So that rum is particularly good. I think that was a good choice. I think that's my favourite when adding to a cigar. Getting a nice, really strong spiced rum like this one, and then introducing that with the smoking the cigar, whether you're just drinking it like I did then, or on the outside of the cigar, like you're trying to get it to soak in a bit. I think that's a good choice. So there you go. if you want to give it a go and let me know how you go. All right? So you guys look after yourselves, and I'll see you on the next video tomorrow when we talk about smoking day-old cigars. See ya.